You'll see a lot of guys out there that'll stand on the sidewalk in front of a building and say,
I own that building, blah, 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 blah.
and I'm like, how come I never see you inside of it? It doesn't mean you don't own it. I believe that. But the inner workings, what goes on with it.
Grant Warrington, a seasoned apartment investor, quit his 24-year construction job to go full-time into property management.
He's now a Bigger Pockets contributor and has over 50,000 social media subscribers that he teaches how to find, buy, and rehab small apartment buildings.
I was a property manager at one point. I managed over 800 units. I know maintenance, I know repairs, I know turnovers, I know costs. I teach from inside the apartment building. Like, this is what sucked, and this is what happened, and this is how we got screwed, and this is how much money we spent. And here's how you can avoid this in the future. I get a direct message, and it says, I love what you're doing. And I look, and it's Grant Cardone. And he said,
The Content Capitalist Podcast.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Content Capitalist Podcast. Today I've got a guest with me where what happened is he started creating interesting, informative, and sometimes hilarious content that got the attention of a billionaire who wanted to invite him for an interview on his show. If you want to hear that story, then you're going to want to keep listening. Welcome to the show, Grant Warrington.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you. Love the show. So thanks for having me on, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Grant, give us I want to get into this story, and we'll reveal the billionaire who actually, invited you to have a relationship with him in a sense. But before we do that, just so the audience knows who you are, what do you do and who do you help?
Yeah, no problem. I just give you just a touch of background on me. I was a construction worker for 24 years, never went to college, hated, and I mean hated having a boss. And even just talking about it right now, man, it still burns in my chest. And I haven't had a boss for 5 years, but I needed a way out. So my wife and I, we met, got married. We decided, let's just start buying real estate. 4 years later, we became millionaires. Quit my job a few years after that. And now we own apartment buildings. That's what we do. We self-manage. We own 41 units in Michigan. We recently just moved to St. Petersburg, Florida. So we manage remotely. And now I have a course and I teach people how to buy small apartment buildings, 5 to 20 units plus, and how to own them themselves. And that's what I do. And then obviously the other thing I do is the social media. So thanks for saying all that about too. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So when I watch your videos, I sense that you obviously know a lot about what you're talking about. And now that you explain, the many years you spent in the industry, now it's all making sense that you'd be able to very knowledgeably just, teach people about that. And I think that a lot of people make the mistake. They want to break into an industry, and then they're, I would say, entrepreneurs where they try to act smarter than they actually are. They go to Google, they, try to find the answer, then they quote it as an expert. I don't think there's anything inherently wrong about that because everybody's got to start somewhere. But I think that I can feel the difference between someone who's been in the industry 20 years and someone who's just researched right before teaching it. Have you seen people like that where you're just like, yeah, I don't know if this guy knows what he's talking about in your industry?
Yeah, 100%. So, and I'll just let you know, this is how I kind of look at it. You'll see a lot of guys out there. I say they teach from the sidewalk. So there's a lot of guys that'll stand on the sidewalk in front of a building and say, I own that building, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, how come I never see you inside of it? It doesn't mean you don't own it. I know they do, right? I believe that. But the inner workings, what goes on with it. I mean, I was a property manager at one point. I managed over 800 units. I know maintenance, I know repairs, I know turnovers, I know costs. So, I teach from inside the apartment building, and that's always been huge for me. But the way I like to teach as well is like, this is what sucked, and this is what happened, and this is how we got screwed, and this is how much money we spent. And here's how you can avoid this in the future. So when I was a construction worker, I was a crane operator. So, people don't realize that. They're like, oh, you have a great background. I'm like, no, I didn't. I ran a crane. I didn't know any carpentry. I didn't know any plumbing, any electrical. That running a crane did not equate back to real estate. So I had to learn those skills. Fortunately, I'm really good at problem solving, and
Mhm.
I'm really good at. I'm not the best at doing it myself, but I can problem solve. I can do all those things. So I try to teach from honesty. I try to teach from I'm not the smartest guy, and I like to be honest about things.
Mhm.
Again, not college educated. Don't have a degree. I'm not an engineer with spreadsheets. I got to look at my spreadsheet. You know what I mean? I'm not going to remember all the numbers, right? And it's just I like to tell people like if I can do this and if I can make content, which I have a
Mhm.
great way of making content that you don't have to be brilliant to do that either. But that's what I love. I love to just be honest about it and be like, hey man, if I can do this, you can too.
How long ago did you start making content for the purpose of generating, leads for your business? Or when I say leads, let's backtrack a little bit. Why do you create content?
Why do I now? Because I feel there's me out there when I first started. That's why. There's me in the past that needs my content. Not everybody does, but
So
I
you're
think
communicating to your past self.
correct. Yeah. Yeah, the lessons I learned. I also like to improve. I enjoy it. I enjoy seeing people react to it. But yeah, I think that's why I started. That's why I keep going. And I go through ebbs and flows where I love doing it, and then I go, is this even worth it? Right. And this year it showed like, holy shit, it is worth it. Keep going. Right. But for years I've done this. And I remember a buddy of mine asking me, he's like, why are you doing this? And he wasn't trying to be a dick, but it was a great question. I go, I can't, I can't tell you that right now. I don't really know, but I do know one thing. I know in 5 years from now, I'm going to be happy I created content instead of saying, oh, I wish I would have done that.
That makes a lot of sense. And right now you're specifically doing a lot of short form content and doing it very well. Was that the strategy from the get go, or is that something that evolved later on?
That was the strategy from the get go. So, construction worker, director of operations for a property management company. I always quit these jobs to take less money to get closer into full time real estate, to being a full time real estate investor and no boss. And then I was a realtor. So, my wife actually said, "You're quitting the property management job. It's killing you." And I said, "Well, what am I going to do? We're not going to make any money then. We had our rentals, but we didn't have enough of them." And she said, "You're a realtor. Why don't just do that?" And I'm like, you know what? All right. So, I mean, how many people's wives say, quit your job? And mine did. And mine's my partner. She's my 50% partner in this. And that was amazing. But when I became that realtor, it was in 2019. I was a full-time realtor now. And I met with a guy at the brokerage, and he said he was in marketing. And he said, listen, at that time, it was like 9 or 13% of realtors make videos. And he said, you should be making videos. And I thought, well, I could do that. So I said, okay. And I've always copied what people told me. So when I started investing in real estate, I just copied. I found a guy that was successful and I just did what he said. So I thought, well, I can just do this here too. The guy said, make videos. I'll make videos. And he told me another thing. Um, Always improve your image over time. So that stuck with me too. He's like, you don't have to be the best. You don't have to be anything. Just start. Maybe next year you get a better camera. Maybe next year you upgrade your lighting. Maybe you upgrade that. Improve your image over time. And I thought, I can do that. I can just start and I'll improve it over time. And that's kind of where it led to. And I wasn't consistent though. I started making videos. You can scroll back in my Instagram at Grant Warrington, scroll back to the beginning. And you're going to see those videos and you're going to go, wow, it's kind of funny, but they're there. And that's how I started.
Great. And like, how many videos in did you get before you started seeing something that you felt was proof that it's worth it?
I mean, it's hard to say because I'll be honest. It's hard to say because probably just recently, because I don't make any money off my videos, right? So if you want to look at it that way, then it's still not worth it. But to me, it's social capital. And that's a term I like to use. Like Ryan Pineda, I'm in Ryan's world now. I met him. He knows who I am. He's been on we did a podcast together. So what's that worth? To me, that's worth a lot. You can, right? Now, you and I know who we are. We're doing a podcast together. This billionaire who we haven't talked about yet, he knows who I am. There's another billionaire down here in Florida that I'm friends with that owns over 20,000 units just through social media. So when you look at it that way, the social capital, it's huge. So you got to focus on things like that in my mind, not like how much money can I make off this? Because someone asked me that too, like, okay, you met this billionaire. What are you going to get from it? And I said, absolutely nothing. Nothing. I don't expect to get anything from it. All I know is I'm going to get to meet him one day in the future. He's going to know who I am. And that's huge. For some reason, and in the future, it'll all pay off. But I don't expect to get anything from anyone, right? I just keep doing what I'm doing.
Here's another way to look at it. And this has worked out really well for me. When I started, or even before I started in entrepreneurship, I started studying Tony Robbins' work, and I went to his seminars. I went into all his live conferences. And one of the maxims that have really stuck with me and has proven itself to work really well is proximity is power. It's how much proximity, how close can you get to the people who can influence, the world pretty much. And the more proximity you have to them, the more power you have. And I think the power comes in two ways, through osmosis. Just the way they think and act and behave, the alacrity in their day-to-day operations. Just by observing that, you're like, wow, you just pick stuff up, right? That's number one. Number two is it's the fact that they know you. If you're in a pinch or if you have an opportunity, they're 10 times more likely to pick up that call or reply to the email, because they're like, oh yeah, that's Grant. I know Grant. Or that's Ken. I know Ken. And whether or not they pick up or respond to you has everything to do with, do they know you? So proximity is 100% power. And even if you haven't cashed in on that proximity yet, it's there. And as long as you keep, producing value to them and their audience and your audience as well, you'll keep popping up in their feed. You'll occupy that portion of their mental real estate, so that if and when the time comes, you have a lot more pull.
100%. Yeah, I love that. That is, I just wrote that down. Proximity is power. You're good, Ken. You're good.
I'm just quoting my favorite mentors.
Yeah.
And when I say mentor, like I did the platinum partnership thing with Tony with I think I did 3 years, right? And that's kind of his elite level thing. And I learned so much by being surrounded with people who are, willing to drop $100,000, which to me at the time was crazy, just to have more proximity with other people willing to drop $100,000. And even though we don't get tons of one-on-one time with Tony, it's people who are attracted by the same thing, like-minded entrepreneurs. And that was amazing. But that's my story. We're here to talk about you. I'm really curious about one thing. Let's talk about the billionaire.
Yeah. So it was New Year's Eve and a couple of months ago, and I'm sitting at my in-laws' house, and I get a direct message, and it says, "I love what you're doing." It's on Instagram, right? And I look, and it's Grant Cardone, and I'm like, "Oh, that's cool." It's somebody must be texting from his account or whatever, right?
Grant Cardone with a 0 for an O, right? Maybe.
Yeah.
You're looking for that.
Yeah. So I, he's got 4 million followers. So I'm like, it's his account. It's blue check. I'm like, okay, it's his account. And then he said, I said, hey man, Uncle G, appreciate what you're doing. Blah, blah, blah. Thanks. I appreciate it. And he said, hey, I'm putting together my podcast list for 2024. And I'd like to be on your podcast. And he said, email me here. And it was his assistant. And I said, all right, I appreciate it. No problem. I'll get that lined up. And here was the biggest thing. I don't have a podcast. So I'm like, shit. So I reached out to my buddy of mine, Jamie Gruber. He's with, we're both in GoBundance, and he does the Tribe of Millionaires podcast. And I said, hey man, I don't have a podcast. You want to go down there so you and I can do this together? And he's like, of course, I'd love to. And to Jamie's credit, Jamie said, listen, let's do this in person. Let's not do it over Zoom. I said, great idea. So that's what happened. We flew down there. We met Grant in his studio, met him in person. And we did it. And I'll tell you, man, it was just an incredible experience. And just to think, again, at this point, I have 35,000 followers on just Instagram, right? Like 50 some thousand total, right? You know, people with a lot more than that. There's so many more people, more successful in that space than me. So for me, it was just incredible to do this. And the one thing I loved was he was very aware of my brand. He was very aware of me, and he was very aware of complimenting me, what I do, my brand. If you watch the interview, I was really blown away by that, because it'd be easier for somebody at that caliber just to steamroll their opinion and what they believe. But he was very aware of, because I do the small apartments, right? And I do personal ownership. I don't do syndication, right? I think there's, when you buy an apartment building yourself, the profits are, you get all the profits and you have complete ownership yourself over it. So there's a big advantage. So, again, it would be easier for him to steamroll over that and say, this is what I do and this is why that's better. But he didn't, man. He treated us great. We felt at no point that the time we were wasting his time or anything like that. Tell you the truth, we came in there and he's actually grabbing the table, moving the table around, hey, where do you guys want, where do I need to sit? And it was a very, very cool experience to see a guy, a billionaire at that caliber, treating us the way he did, his whole team. It was a great experience.
One of the things that I've found, having met people like Grant and leaders in that caliber, is so many of them, not all of them, but many of them, the majority of them, have the ability that when they're speaking to you, you feel like the only person in the world, and they are able to 100% focus their intellect, their emotional energy, and their attention on you, because they don't have a lot of time. And I suspect the reason is, like, that's the only way you're going to make a deep impact, because you can't spend a lot of time with every single person, but the time you do spend is so focused, and that person is not going to forget that. They will remember the feeling they had. They'll probably forget 99% of the words that you say, but they will remember the feeling they're left with, the experience being in your presence. And I'm going to bring this guy's name up again, but Tony Robbins, he had that. I think maybe I've had 5 one-on-one conversations with him, but they're memorable. Like, I felt like the only person in the world. He was not checking his watch. He was not like, he didn't have a smartphone in his hand. He wasn't like kind of like scanning the room while talking to me. He was just talking to me. And Grant too, I did some work with him in the past, work on his videos. Same thing, just boom, focused right in. So I get what you're talking about. They have that uncanny ability to connect. I think that's what social media is bringing back to, is the value of connection more than just clickbait and spam, right?
Yeah, 100%. He had that. And like you said, there's so many few people that do. My wife and I could ask my wife right now, who's the best listener that we have met? And she would say his name. Another one, Joe Fairless. I don't know if you know Joe Fairless. He's an apartment syndicator, but that guy gave complete 100% attention. And if you ever have the opportunity to chat with him, if you haven't, he's a great guy. And he blew me away. And I learned a lot from that as well.
Great. Let's go into you building this audience and the amount of followers you have on social media with short form content. Could you tell us a bit about your strategy around that? How often do you post? Where do you come up with your ideas? How long does it take to actually shoot this stuff?
Sure. Yeah. I 2 years ago, I got serious. I said, you know what? That's it. I want to grow my account. I'm going to get serious. I'm going to post every single day. So that's what I started doing. It was just me. I had bought this camera. I went to a camera shop. I have a Sony A6500. It's a used camera. I got it for $700 and some at a used camera shop. And I said, I'm going to post every single day. I'd shoot with my phone as well. And I started doing that. I put the text on the videos. Now, if you watch my videos now, it's way more advanced than that. But that's where I started. And I started one video a day. Then eventually I hired a video editor from the Philippines. And then I hired a social media manager. We got up to 2 videos a day, 2 reels a day, and then 3 reels a day. But here's how I do that. I always have my Trello app. I used to have the Notes app in my iPhone, but now I put it on Trello. And anytime I think of something or I see something, I put that in my note, make a video on this, right? And then it just sits there. And I have hundreds of notes. Sometimes I make a video on it, sometimes I don't. I was in a bathroom the other day, right? And I saw this floating toilet, right? You know, the toilet that isn't supported to the floor, it's supported to the wall.
Oh, to the wall, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And it looks cool, but the toilet was like this, right?
That's scary. I wouldn't put my weight down.
Yeah. So I look at that. You can see all the caulk cracked. You can see it pulling away from the wall. And I thought, that's a good reel. So what I did, I took a video of it. Now I'm in the bathroom. I'm not going to talk, right? Because there's other people in there. I'm in a stall, but I took a video of the toilet and I thought, you know what? I'll voice over that when I get home, but I just need to be able to show it. And that's what I did. I made a reel about that, man. You can't control how many butts sit on this toilet. So don't ever put a floating toilet in your rental property. So that's what I did. Even though it looks great, like here's the reasons why.
It looks good when it's first installed.
Yeah, 100%. So that's what I do. I put those notes in there. And then the other thing I do now is when I go back to those videos, I'll shoot like hook 1 and hook 2 and hook 3. I put 3 hooks in there because here's the thing now, the body's the same, the message is the same, but with the 3 different hooks, you really have 3 different videos now. So my video editor edits every different hook differently and puts hook 1 on the body, hook 2 on the same body, and hook 3 on the same body. And now I have 3 different videos and we can post them every 2 weeks. The different videos can come out. The other thing we do, so there's 3 videos out of one idea.
Okay. And do you shoot these all in one batch? The 3 hooks in a row and then the body? Or do you shoot the body first and then the hooks?
So here's how I shoot a video. I will I pull up Trello on my screen here and I'll be looking at it. And I'll hit record and I record it on QuickTime and I'll talk to my video editor and I'll say, hey, for this one, we're going to call it don't use floating toilets in your rentals. Here's going to be hook number 1. And then I'll say, here's the reason you should not use floating toilets in your rentals. And I'll say, okay, here's hook number 2. And then same thing, right? And then I get to the body. And keep in mind, I'm looking down at my notes because I script my stuff out now because I don't want to miss anything. And I'm looking down at my notes, reading it. And then I look back up at the camera and I say, reason number 1 is blah, 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 right? Then I look down, I grab my next line, and there's pauses between that. So a 30-second video could last me 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes, and I'm talking to the editor the whole time. And he knows, edit out those pauses, or I'll tell him, hey, don't use that line. Let me reshoot that, and then I'll do it again. So you don't have to be perfect. And I think a lot of people think that they need to be perfect on camera for 30 seconds. I am not that. Sometimes I'll post in my stories one of my reels. Like I've done a 9-minute, 50-second reel once. And I posted that in my stories because I'm like, look, if I can do this, you can do this too. You don't have to be perfect. Just throw it in some software like iMovie if you're doing it yourself and just cut those spaces out, right? Yeah, it takes time. But if you're only doing 1 video a day, you know, I script 10 videos a week and I shoot 10 videos all at once. And it takes me an hour and 10 minutes to shoot 10 videos. So it does not take a lot of time.
All the scripting is done by you. You don't, are you leveraging AI to speed up this process a little bit?
You know what? I just leveraged AI last week because there's things I know, but I can't explain them extremely well. So I put it into ChatGPT to see how it would come out. It does a good job, not excellent. And then I just tweak some words. I put it in my language a little bit more, but that has been helpful, but I don't use it. I don't use it a lot unless it's like a higher, a higher thought process and I need a little help explaining it.
Okay. Makes sense. So you shoot these videos so you're ideating, putting everything in Trello as you go. Once a week, you spend about a little over an hour to shoot everything, multiple hooks for each one. That all goes to your editor. Then do you actually vet I mean, do you actually approve all of these, or do you just trust your team to just post it and that's it?
So here's the thing I used to do. I used to be very involved in the process, right? Quality. I want to see quality. I want to see these things. Then I realized I have the wrong people. And believe me, it took time. But I had to get the right people in place. But the other thing I did is I figured, you know what? If they can be 85 to 90% effective and I don't have to do anything, that's way more valuable. So now I shoot a video and I don't ever see it again. And people will say to me, hey, that reel you put out today, that was really great. I'll be like, which one was it? Tell me about it. And they'll tell me, I remember shooting it, but I've never seen it when it was edited. I go back and I don't watch everything, but I'll watch a few of them, or I'd say majority of them, because I want to make sure my team is staying in line, right? But yeah, once I send it away, it's posted and I don't see it until it's posted. So that's what I love about it. I am completely hands off. No matter where I'm at, if I'm taking a day off, those are getting posted, and we post 2 reels a day now, every single day.
I'm still curious about your process here. So the stuff gets posted. What about the engagement on social media? Is it always you that's replying to comments and things like that? Or do you have help with that?
Yeah, it is always me. My social media manager might like or comment on other people's posts or other people's feeds. But it's me. And sometimes it's overwhelming, but I try to do my best. I like to engage a lot. So it's me. And I mean, it's me in the emails, like for my course, it's me, because I'm at that point where, I'm super involved in everything I do. And that's why it was great to get that portion of it off my plate. Right. So now I don't have to worry about the video editing. I don't have to worry about the posting, and I don't have to worry about the copy. That's all off my plate. It all comes out. And do I read something and go, I don't exactly sound like that? Then I make a note of it for our Monday morning meetings. The team and we meet over Zoom, and I say, hey, listen, I don't use the word whatever it might be.
For me, it's the word kindly. Every time I see that.
Kindly.
I never say kindly.
100%. And that's what I tell my team. Listen, you guys have heard me speak. You've never heard me say kindly. Or I hope this email finds you well. That's a big pet peeve with mine. I don't ever talk like that. I'm like, you can't put that in there.
To me, kindly feels so passive aggressive. It like it's old fashioned, but when someone uses it, like, yeah, please kindly pay the invoice. It's just like, what's the matter with you? Like, what I'm hearing is like, I'm trying to be as polite as possible, but I really, like, you've ruined my day because you're late in payment or something like that. Right now, you've got your course, right? And what percentage of people coming into your course have previously viewed or engaged with you on social media?
I don't do an awesome job at researching that, and I need to. That's one of my flaws. I did have a guy that just joined the other day tell me, he said, "Yeah, I've been watching your reels for a year now, and I just joined." So I was like, "Oh, wow, that's pretty valuable to keep doing what I'm doing then." So because I think 35,000 followers, I have 2,500 on my email list that I just started growing like 6 months ago. There's a lot of sales and a lot of people I can help in both of those two numbers. So if I was to stop, shame on me. There's a lot more I can do, and there's a lot of people I can help in those numbers. So that's why I got to continue to keep going.
Okay. I love that. What's on the horizon for you as far as your media? Like, you kind of have a media empire as I think compared to what was available to us, even 15 years ago, we have the ability to grow a huge following on one platform and then keep expanding to multiple platforms. Do you have plans or thoughts about that?
Thoughts on other platforms, or like YouTube? That's going to be my next focus.
Growth in general.
Okay.
YouTube. Okay. Tell me about YouTube. Why
growth
YouTube?
In general? I'm starting to do YouTube long form. YouTube long form is just harder for me because I script. So I need to get away from that. I think be a little bit more myself. I'm going to start a podcast. I'm going to start some other forms of media where I can just be me, but I'm going to make it easy, right? I want to start a podcast where I don't have to edit and do all these different things. I just want to flow, and that's kind of what I'm looking to do. But as far as the media, at some point, yeah, I want to hold events down here in St. Pete or wherever else. Bring people in. I got a coaching program now. I just added on for accountability, and it's going really well. So I can see that. I want to do more of it, and I want to do it on a bigger stage. But again, it's like anything. It's the fundamentals, right? Like pitching, hitting, and catching, right? In baseball, those are the things you got to practice in order to get better. So I just tell myself, if I can get 1% better in my business or anything I do every single day, just 1%, then I'm winning. So that's what I try to focus on. Just keep my head down, keep doing what I'm doing. People are starting to notice. And I just need to keep at it. I need to be humble and happy where I'm at, and just keep moving forward.
That's cool. That's cool. And if and when you do start your podcast on the regular, then I'd be happy to be a guest. I
Oh
enjoy
man,
this
I love it.
conversation so much. So
Yeah, I'd
yeah, let
love
me
it,
know.
man. I appreciate it. And I want to say one thing, Ken. Your toilet strategy that you talk about, that has helped me tremendously. So I heard you on a podcast a while ago talking about that, where you say, you got to think, I forget the percentage, but a lot of people watch their phone and watch reels on the toilet. And they watch it with no sound on. So that has really resonated with me. I've even made videos about it and called people out for being on the toilet on a reel. But just to get the words on the screen, I've told my team that, like, hey, people are watching this on the toilet, man, and they're watching it with no sound. So we gotta make sure it makes sense. So I appreciate that. That really that made me laugh, but it's so true, man.
It's actually as simple as it is. It's my guiding principle when creating short form content. Just and I haven't done this recently. Maybe I should. There's this certain element of self awareness that I put myself into when I'm really trying to think, kind of like on a strategic level of how to get better cut through, better reach. And the toilet was a huge breakthrough for me, and that's what kind of informed like the format and everything that I do. But something else that's really helped me and that I've started sharing, and I'll share it with you here, is that if you're looking, well, let's talk about videos that go viral, right? Videos only go viral if people share them. And then then when we're trying to figure out why people share the videos, then I think that a lot of us, we put ourselves into this position of being like the teacher and the students, or worse yet, like the scientist watching the rat go through the maze, and you're trying to control it and incentivize it to go find the cheese faster, right? And because we put ourselves in a separation from our audience, then we think differently. We start thinking as if we're trying to control or manipulate. And I think a lot of marketers and content creators get stuck in this, like they box themselves into a certain mode of thinking because they're putting themselves in the position of somebody who's in control. When in fact, our audience is the same as ourselves. And when I started to think of it more philosophically, like we are the same as our audience. We have the same thoughts, the same emotions, everything. So what I found works really well to figure out how to get people to share your videos more is go to your DMs, your private DMs. You're like, I suggest if you're listening on the podcast right now, go actually look at it. Grant, you can look right now. This works super well. You go to your private DMs and not look at the DMs you've sent to people who are not necessarily professionally connected to. That means the buddies you drink with, the people you go hang out with on the weekends. Your wife is going to be like the number one source, or your children, right? And people who know the real you, not the social media you, the real you. And then look at every single post that was either shared to you or from you. You know how, like, you find a funny reel, you share it to your wife, right? Or she shares something back to you. And
Yeah.
then when you look at these posts, then you realize, okay, what's the real motivation for sharing? She shared that with you because it's like an inside joke. Or maybe it's just like she's trying to tell you something like, hey, honey, I wouldn't mind if you took out the trash every now and then, or pick up your clothes, or like, oh yeah, I saw you side eye looking at that waitress when we were at the restaurant. Like, these are the emotions that we have as humans that get us to share. And then look at what motivated you to share and what motivated people to share things with you privately. Because that's what we call the shadow self, right? There's a shadow and then there's the persona. And then once you can reverse engineer the emotion that triggered that, you could even go back and look at the video and reverse engineer the structure of it, then make your content based around that. And boy, this is like the cheat code. It is the cheat code. And then you can apply it to any industry, anything you do. So that's my next biggest game changer that I've been applying. Sadly, not so much to my content. I'm just repurposing our podcast like this. But maybe I should actually start, shooting videos like that myself. But we've been doing that for our clients, and it's gangbusters. It's just take away that separation and reverse engineer your own behavior and mirror that to your audience.
That's an excellent idea. My only problem is my wife and I share cat videos. So
you guys don't do that?
Yeah, we do, but cat videos, man, because we got a little cat. So it's I'm going to be the real estate investor cat guy here soon. No, but that is a great point. I am going to implement that and look back at some things I've been sharing.
Why not just bring your cats into your videos every now and then?
Yeah, I have.
You could even say stuff like oh, you have, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Some creative ways that you could do this is things like, here's what I might do, right? Like in your niche, which is, the real estate space, I might say something like, hey, what's your cat's name?
Hudson.
Okay. I'd say, hey, Hudson, would you rather have 5 properties in one unit or 5 separate houses? Like, which one do you prefer? And then I'd have a shot of your cat, and then I'd have like a red pill and a blue pill, right? And then you'd have some treats in it, and then just see it grab one. It's like, good choice, I don't know. You could just think of ways to incorporate, cute behavior. There could be, like the cat does something funny or makes a weird face, screenshot that. And then every time, you mention something, have the cat as the reaction to that thing, like a happy or scared or jumping, like, oh, what do you think of this toilet? Meow, jumps away. Yeah, that's what I thought too when I saw it, So, there are creative ways, but if you can reverse engineer your own behavior, then that's the most powerful way to engage on a deeper level with other people, your audience.
I love it, man. Do me a favor. Don't let this come out until I have time to create some of these cat videos, because I'm going to do that. that is phenomenal. But if you let this come out, people are they're going to steal it.
Another thing you could do is just look for, just clip viral cat videos of cats doing weird things and then cut that into your narrative. Oh, there's the crow that's agitating these 2 cats to fight each other. Do you see that one?
Yeah.
I bet you could find a narrative that will, that'll, like, you could say like, oh, this is the HOA, like you could put a little tag over HOA and the tenant, and then there's, the owner, So then the HOA is like the crow and is trying to get the tenant and the owner to fight, when actually, the HOA is the problem, or something, there's a cool spin you could put on that, maybe.
That's great.
Anyhow, I'm having way too much fun being creative with this, but I could go on and on. But, that's, the crux of it is like I said earlier. And it probably takes some practice applying that. And I'm still getting used to it, but it's really changed the way I think about it. Wow, I went off on a tangent there because I get excited when I kind of make a eureka discovery.
That was great. I took notes. Thank you.
Perfect. Grant, how can people get in touch with you, learn more about the coaching program, find you on social media?
Yeah, you can DM me on Instagram. It's me. It's at Grant Warrington. Look for the blue check. I'm on Facebook, Instagram. I'm on everything, YouTube, TikTok. But Instagram's where I communicate the most. And then if you want more info on the program, apartmentbuyingblueprint.com. But yeah, you got any questions, shoot me a DM and I will do my best to answer.
Great. So if you're listening on the podcast, then go down to the show notes. We'll put all the links there. And if you're watching this on YouTube, check out the description and be sure to check out Grant's stuff. Grant, thank you so much. I enjoyed jamming with you. And for the rest of you on the pod, I'll see you next week.
No hustle worship here, we're a different breed. Action is what we got if action is what you need. Content capitalists, we're breaking the mold. Cause the old ways fading, new stories to be told. So content capitalists, get to the prize.